You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the August 1st, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Economic Development Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay, I think we should just call it to order. Do we have to do organizational things at the beginning? Like,
elect officers and
okay.
Yep.
So I'll proceed and open it up for, welcome everybody. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming today. This is our first meeting, first official meeting of the EDC. Today's date is August 1st, 2023. Time is 4:30 p.m. And I guess the first order of business for our redevelopment commission is to elect officers. EDC, Economic Development Commission, is to elect officers. I'll open up the floor for nominees for president. So we'll elect a president, a vice president, and a secretary or a treasurer? Secretary. I'll open up the floor for nominations for president of the EDC, Economic Development Commission.
I'd like to make a nomination for Mr. Yagelski.
I hear one for Mr. Yagelski.
I second that.
Mr. Yagelski, will you serve?
Yes, sir.
I'll take the vote and then I'll hand the floor off to you.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Yagelski, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now nomination for vice president.
I will nominate Ms. Tillman.
Anybody else? Okay, vice president's closed. All in favor? Aye.
Second.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Second.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And you said treasurer next or secretary?
Secretary.
Okay, we need a nomination for secretary.
Want to be conserving the same? Two roles. I can nominate Ms. Tillman again.
I think you're the odd man out. Sorry.
I'd like to nominate Attorney Sunic.
No, it's gonna be,
Oh,
the
you-
commission's gonna be available.
Oh.
I'm just here as a watch,
Oh, okay.
as a watch.
You, sir?
Sure.
We, sir?
Second? Second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we open up the meeting.
So you just want us to talk about?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
We have one order of business tonight, which is, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Rampola for that.
And
And
Tom,
sorry.
Mr. Everett, yeah, he's
Mr.
actually going to do the
Yeah.
presentation, so talk about the project, talk about the EDC, so yeah, Tom.
Sure.
about it.
And Randy can jump in if I say something wrong or he wants to add to anything. So the primary role of the Economic Development Commission is to make a recommendation regarding the issuance of TIF bonds. EDCs are also involved in conduit financings, such as financings for hospitals or 501c3s or industrial manufacturing bonds, but these days typically most involved in TIF financings. This TIF financing would finance a portion of the mixed-use development at the 11th Street Station by issuing bonds not to exceed $22 million. We have a diagram here of kind of the structure of the financing.
You got it.
I already have one.
I got one.
Okay.
Yeah, I have electronic.
So to just explain this structure a little bit, the city is the entity issuing the bonds. So we can just kind of follow the money. The city will issue the bonds and will receive the proceeds of the sale of the bonds and will then loan those proceeds to a nonprofit building corporation, the City of Michigan City Building Corporation, pursuant to a loan agreement between the city and the building corporation. The nonprofit building corp is created by the city for the sole purpose of assisting the city with financing economic development projects in the city. The nonprofit building corporation will then loan the proceeds of the bonds to the developer pursuant to a financing agreement. And developer will construct the mixed-use project using those proceeds. The nonprofit building corporation will also enter into a lease with the redevelopment commission of the city of Michigan City, whereby the redevelopment commission will lease existing roads within the city from the building corporation, and then the rental payments paid by the redevelopment commission under that lease will pay the principal and interest on the bonds.
I was just jumping, like, so the role of the EDC, as part of the city, the economic development statute 36712 requires that the Economic Development Commission hold a public hearing, and make a recommendation to the council. So that's effectively, you don't see the EDC listed on here, but you're kind of lumped in with the city and the common council. So you act tonight, then the common council will adopt, hopefully, will adopt a bond ordinance that will authorize those bonds that Tom's talking about. But, I may have jumped in, but.
Can I just say one clarification is that, and it may not be, this was real significant a couple of weeks ago, it's not as significant now, but it could end up being significant, is that when you think of this in terms of the 18.5 million, which is the proceeds we'll get from the bond, they will go to the developer, and the developer can then use them whichever way they want. And just to correct what Tom said, it's not just exclusively for the mixed-use building, but also can be applied to the parking structure as well.
It's the development in general.
We just look at this as a it could be 92, 94, 98 million dollar project. That's a garage and a mixed-use building. Mm-hmm. And however Flaherty & Collins decides to allocate that money, that's where it'll go. More than likely, it will go to the mixed-use building, only because of the fact what we have more recently learned is that NICD does not oppose to using the federal funds from NICD to go first for the garage and then go from there.
Okay.
So it was significant a couple of weeks ago, not really significant now, given NICD's
Commitment to, they take a position to allow us to access those federal funds first, which is what we kind of been pushing.
What we want.
Yeah, that's what we wanted.
You never know.
And certainly the resolution that I think hopefully you all got a copy of, that it included both pieces of it, the entirety of the project.
Right. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. I didn't interrupt. I was going to.
Thanks, Alan. So as Randy just said, what the EDC needs to do today is hold a public hearing on the project, and then adopt a resolution recommending that the city proceed with the project and the financing.
I would say we did publish notice, so I emailed that to Debbie earlier, probably about an hour ago, so you may not have seen it, but we have the proof of publication, so it did get published timely for the hearing.
You should all have a copy, or will have a copy of the resolution, and then the report of the EDC, which sets forth some findings relating to the project.
Yeah.
There's two different things in there.
That's your report. That's your findings.
Okay. So the whereas clauses in the beginning of the resolution, they kind of lay out the structure of the financing as we just discussed, and then also describes the project itself, which, as Alan said, includes both the mixed-use project and the parking garage component. As I mentioned before, the city proposes to issue bonds not to exceed $22 million to finance a portion of the project. In the body of the resolution, Section 1, Section 1 approves the form of a loan agreement between the city and the building corporation, and the form of a trust indenture which will secure the payment of principal and interest on the bonds. Section 2 approves the issuance of the bonds to finance the project, as well as to pay for the cost of issuance, bond insurance if necessary.
I'll just jump in, I'll say, the resolution talks about paying capitalized interest if necessary. We're not contemplating there needing to be any capitalized interest. That's basically financing interest, and I'm sorry if you know that, but because we're leasing an existing road, we can start to pay debt service immediately. So we don't have to, a lot of times if you're leasing a project that's being built out of the ground, you can't pay a lease rent until it's done. In this case, we're leasing the road, so we can pay interest, principal immediately. It saves money in the long run.
Section 3 then authorizes the mayor and the city clerk to revise and execute either the loan agreement or the trust indenture and any other documents necessary to carry out the transaction. Section 4 states that the EDC has held a public hearing on the project and concludes that the benefit to the public from the project indicate that the city should go forward with the financing and the project. Section 5 approves the report of the EDC, which we'll go over next. Section 6 authorizes any officer of the EDC to execute any documents needed to carry out the transaction. And then Section 7 authorizes the bond ordinance to be presented to the Common Council. So then, turning to the report, do all of you have a copy of that? Okay. Again, Section A of the report just describes the project the same exact way as it's described in the resolution. Section B states that there are no additional public works that will be needed by the project which don't already exist or are planned. Section C states that the total cost of the project for which funding is not otherwise available is $22 million. Section D states that the employment impact of the estimated employment impact of the project, which includes 8 full-time jobs after the project is completed and 225 temporary construction jobs. And finally, Section E contains the determination that the project will not have an adverse competitive impact on any other businesses in the city.
Yeah, I would just say like the job information, the wage information, that all comes from the developer. That's kind of their estimates, including the construction. And adverse competitive effect, this project should, if nothing else, it should serve as a catalyst for it's just the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite. It's going to actually put people down there and actually help the restaurants or businesses, etc.
Right.
Yeah, a density of people.
I think they've got to open the public hearing, and if any of the public wants to speak, and then you can close it. Okay. And then you could, if you have questions, have to answer them.
Sure. Okay. At this time, open public hearing, please. Anybody from the public want to speak? Anybody from the public want to speak? Anybody from the public want to speak? Public hearing is closed.
Happy to answer any questions you may have about the report or the resolution or any of the structure. The structure is dictated in part by allowing the TIF to be used, and the reason we have a lease is so that the Redevelopment Commission can have a tax backup, and Tom may have mentioned that, but so the Redevelopment Commission is securing the financing with the tax backup. The council meeting tonight have resolutions on their agenda to approve some actions taken by the Redevelopment Commission to consolidate the TIF areas, to be able to pledge the TIF. And they've got a bond ordinance on their agenda for, I guess, second reading now. They've had it on first reading. So yeah, again, the statute requires you all to meet and to act, and then the council takes up the baton to carry it through. And there's some subsequent meetings of the Redevelopment Commission. The Building Corporation, which is a new entity for the city, did meet and did adopt their resolution already.
I was going to add that piece into it. We have had a building corporation. I know we mentioned that, and we have had a building corporation meeting, which kind of functions as an RDA to some extent. But
just going with the recent bond we did with the county, what's the going rate right now for bond
So these will be taxable bonds because they're being used by the
Okay.
developer, so the rate will be a little bit higher. And the bond ordinance, I think not to exceed 7%, if I recall.
Okay.
I think the financial advisor is assuming somewhere in the high 5s, low 6s, somewhere in that range. It's because it's taxable.
Sure,
If it were
absolutely.
tax exempt, it would be lower. It'd be, you know.
I guess the other question is there an early out on any of these bonds?
There will be a provision, typically, like in the municipal world, and you may have seen that on the county bond, it's
Yes.
usually, if the bond's long enough, and this one is, it'll be at 10 years. so
Yeah,
that
we
you
have
can-
10 year, right, correct. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
Great questions.
I have one, and I apologize if I don't convey this properly, but so after the terms of the lease, if the lease is assigned or given to someone else and that interest or the percentage increases, do that still put that back on the city to pay?
If the lease won't be, it can't be assigned, it has to be between the redevelopment commission and the building corporation. It has to stay the same because
Okay.
because of the revenue streams. So there won't be any ability for the redevelopment commission or the building corporation to assign it to anyone. The lease rentals will be fixed once the bonds are sold. The lease rentals will be fixed in the amount equal to pay the debt service on the bonds. They won't increase.
Okay,
So
thank
you're
you.
welcome.
And we'll just continue to pay it over me, REC, would just continue to pass along that TIF money for the entirety of its life as sort of like Lafayette Park or Ohio Street, just like our other bonds.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar. The leasing structure itself is very similar to what the Redevelopment Commission, Redevelopment Authority have done for those other projects. Because we're doing an economic development bond to incent the developer to do this work, we've got to layer in the economic development provisions and have the Economic Development Commission meet and sort of go through it that way, as opposed to the more traditional RDA, Redevelopment Authority, Redevelopment Commission lease financing.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Mr. Willoughby, you have any questions?
Good.
All right, so I think the report is approved by the resolution, so you don't have to approve it separately. So you just, that was, you, like, one motion to approve the resolution and.
All right. Motion to approve resolution number
1-2023. I'm so sorry, Tracy.
1-20-23.
1-2023. Yes.
1-2023, excuse me. Okay, motion.
I will make the motion to adopt the proposed resolution.
Mr. Willoughby, second. Anybody?
Support.
Support, okay, support. All right, any question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right. We're contemplating a bond issue at this point. I think it was, I don't have the calendar. October, early October, I think, right, Colin?
If we get through all the different
Steps.
processes, October.
It's somewhat dependent upon the developer sort of closing on their financing of the thing. The only reason I mention that is there will be a few documents for you two to sign as president and secretary, typical like closing certificates, but we don't need another meeting and you don't have to come together to sign them.
We'll just let you guys
track you down.
You back in town, passing through, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying, you're in town all the time. I know where you live, wherever you guys live. Tracy, yeah. Anything else business-wise we need to do?
I don't think so. Just election of officers and that's it.
Approve the resolution.
Sign copies.
Reports.
Yeah, I got the copies right here to sign. Motion.
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Can I just say to the three of you, now that we're off the record, thank you.
Hold on.